Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible origin story. It's one that doesn't start with an author or a pen, but with something like a divine echo in the cosmos. We're talking about one of the world's most ancient bodies of knowledge, the Vedas, and their unbelievable journey all the way to the written word. So let's just start with a kind of mind-bending question. Can you imagine a book, a foundational text for an entire civilization that no one actually wrote? It sounds completely impossible, right? But believe it or not, this very idea is the key to understanding where the Vedas come from. You see, the central concept here is called aparushaya. It's a Sanskrit word that literally means not of human origin. According to Hindu tradition, the Vedas weren't authored by any person or sage or even a committee of people. Nope, they're considered eternal truths that have always existed. So if nobody wrote them, where on earth did they come from? Well, that question leads us straight to our first big idea, the unheard voice of God. And this is all rooted in a tradition called Śruti, which literally means that which is heard. The origin story of the Vedas, you see, it doesn't begin with writing, it begins with listening. So Śruti is the name for this divine knowledge. The belief is that these eternal truths were revealed at the very dawn of creation. They weren't created or composed, but were instead perceived by ancient sages who had reached such a profound state of consciousness they could tune into this cosmic frequency. And this brings us to the ṛṣis, these ancient sages. They weren't authors in any way we'd understand today. A better way to think of them is like cosmic receivers, or maybe spiritual antennas. In these incredible states of deep meditation, figures like Vasishtha and Vishwamitra simply heard these universal truths. And get this, for thousands of years, this enormous library of knowledge was passed down perfectly from teacher to student, completely orally. But you can probably see a problem brewing, right? A purely oral tradition. How do you manage and preserve a single, massive body of knowledge over countless generations without anything getting lost? Well, that challenge led to the next huge step in the story, the grand compilation. I mean, just imagine it. As time went on, the sheer volume of this one single Veda became a massive burden. The risk of knowledge getting corrupted or just plain forgotten was growing with every single generation. Something had to be done. A new system was needed and fast. And this is where a truly pivotal figure enters our story, Maharishi Vedavyasa. His name literally tells you what he did. Vyasa means to divide or to compile, so he became known as Vedavyasa because he's the one who took on the absolutely monumental task of organizing the Vedas. And his method was it was a masterclass in organization. It was brilliant. First, he systematized the entire sprawling body of knowledge. Then he divided it all into 4 distinct collections, all based on their theme and how they were used. And finally, and this is the crucial part, to make sure it was all preserved, he assigned each one of these 4 Vedas to a specific disciple. Pila got the Rig Veda, Vaishampayana the Yajur Veda, and so on. Each one became the official guardian of that sacred branch of knowledge.
Okay, but wait a minute. We still haven't gotten into any writing yet. Everything we've talked about is still sound, still oral. Our next section, from sound to script, finally covers that last crucial step in the journey. The big move from a purely spoken tradition to actual physical texts.
Now you're probably asking, why didn't they just write it down from the start? It seems so obvious. Well, in ancient Indian culture, there was this really profound belief that knowledge held in memory was far more sacred and pure. The living breath, the perfect pronunciation, that was considered the very life of the mantra, something that a flat, static text just couldn't capture. And this timeline, wow, it really puts the sheer scale of this into perspective. For millennia, the tradition was purely 100% oral. The process of actually writing the Vedas down is thought to have started sometime in the centuries BCE. But even then, the oldest manuscripts we actually have in our hands today are from a much, much later period. And the main reason those early manuscripts didn't survive is because the materials themselves were organic. They were perishable. The Vedas were painstakingly inscribed on things like bhujpatra, which is birch bark, and tadpatra, palm leaves. The scripts themselves evolved over time too, from the ancient Brahmi script to the Devanagari script that's more familiar today. So, after all that incredible organizing work by Vedavyasa, what exactly are these 4 Vedas? Let's do a real quick flyby of the core theme of each one.
This table gives us a great bird's eye view. First, you have the Rig Veda. This is the big one, the most ancient, just a massive collection of beautiful hymns praising the forces of nature and the cosmos. Then there's the Yajur Veda, which is kind of like a practical manual, a how-to guide for performing sacred rituals and sacrifices. Then you've got the Sama Veda, which is just incredible. It takes the hymns from the Rig Veda and sets them to these elaborate melodies. It's literally considered the origin of Indian classical music. And finally, there's the Atharvaveda, which is all about daily life. It's got everything from the principles of medicine, Ayurveda, to spells for prosperity and deep philosophy. Okay, this brings us to our final, and honestly, my favorite part of this whole story: thousands of years of purity. How, in a primarily oral tradition, was this gigantic body of knowledge preserved with zero error for millennia? I mean, how is that even possible? The answer lies in a technique that is pure genius. This technique is known as Vikriti path, and what it is a series of incredibly complex mnemonic systems, memory techniques, designed for one single purpose: to make absolutely certain that not one syllable, not one tiny intonation of the Vedic texts was ever changed. It's basically a human-powered error correction system. So how did it actually work? It's wild. Instead of just memorizing a line of words, let's just call them 1, 2, 3, 4, students had to learn it in all these different complex patterns. They'd recite it forward. Then they'd recite it in pairs, backwards, like 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3. Then in braided patterns, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. By memorizing all these crazy combinations, if you made a single mistake in one pattern, it would stick out like a sore thumb when you recited the next. It is an absolutely brilliant, almost mathematical way to guarantee perfect transmission. And that just leaves us with one final thought. From a divine echo heard by ancient sages in deep meditation, to being organized by a master compiler and then preserved for thousands of years by a genius memory system, the Vedas have survived. And so we have to ask ourselves, what meaning do these ancient sounds, these thousands of years old echoes of eternity, really hold for us here, today? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this journey.